Nation. We're back.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan, and we are Fire the Cannon.
Yoo-hoo! Welcome back, Megan.
Oh, welcome back, my friend. It feels like it's been forever. It also feels like we haven't had enough time to get ready, but lots to talk about. We're going to jump in. Of course, Texas coming off the bye week. So if you guys haven't checked out our recap of CM Houston, I don't know what you're doing. Check it out on YouTube. We've got it there. We've got it on any of your podcast platforms. You can hear our in-depth coverage there. But today, Rocky, we are going to talk really about some stuff around the 40. We're going to look ahead to some of the games this weekend. And of course, we are going to preview Texas at Florida. It's swagger in the swamp. That's what I'm going to call it.
I like that. Swagger. Someone's going to leave with swagger and someone's going to leave with swine. Like it's
Sadness,
going to be
two
teams that are very much at crossroads, right? And we'll talk about it. They're both on very thin lines. Texas with playoff hopes, one more loss, and it's looking rough. And Florida, is their coach already gone? Like, we'll talk about it. Two quarterbacks at crossroads, two teams dealing with significant injuries. Texas, maybe offense to Florida defense. We'll talk about all of that. There's a lot actually of other athletics happening around Texas that we'll talk about. You were at the baseball game. We just watched volleyball with another big win on the road in the SEC. Like we'll talk about all of that. But Megan, how did you enjoy your bye weekend?
I'd like to say I sat back and relaxed and did nothing, but I think we all know me better than that.
No, you did not.
I absolutely did not. I was kind of all over the place. It was good though. It was nice to be able to not like stress out about my college teams because actually Texas and Michigan State had a bye this past weekend. So no stress for me. Definitely, like you mentioned, went to baseball, which was actually really cool. Schloss brought back fall ball for Texas baseball, and it was at the Dell Diamond, which was a really cool atmosphere. Shout out to the Texas fans that showed out. Man, it was awesome. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, it was good. I mean, for me, it was my version of relaxing, I guess, but I don't know that I actually relaxed. How about you? I mean, you had a pretty crazy whirlwind trip.
Yeah, I'll get into it. So first I want to say, did you know Bad Bunny is going to be the Super Bowl halftime show? I know the internet totally did not get upset about that, because international superstars have never played the Super Bowl halftime. Anyway, it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a party. Don't worry if you don't understand all the lyrics. Just get up and move your ass. Have some fun. Oh, right. Gracias. CB said, Feliz cumpleaños, Dr. Rocky. Thank you so much. Yes, it was my birthday this past Saturday. Yay. So for my birthday, the Women's Rugby World Cup was the championship final matches were on my birthday. So we thought it would be a great idea to go to London for the weekend. So Richard, Naughty, and I left Thursday night, got there Friday afternoon. And Megan, I don't know if I told you this, but I got a London tattoo because most people know that most of my tattoos are just from travel all over the world. So I'm really big into and I realized we're there a lot because that's where my husband's from. We're there a lot, but I had not had a London tattoo. So as we were sitting in the pub, I said, oh, look, there's a tattoo shop across the street. So we went over, made great friends with everybody in the little tattoo shop. And now it's kind of upside down. You don't want to see it. But this is, we call them the tippets, the little mailboxes. But we have this game. Richard has this game we play where it's kind of like Slug Bug, but with the mailboxes. So I did the little mailbox with a British UK Union Jack. So anyway, I love it. It's pretty cute. That's what I did. But we went to the World Cup, Megan, and I have to show you couple of really cool things from the World Cup because it's a big deal. It's the Women's Rugby World Cup, right? Okay, so this is at the big sign, Women's Rugby World Cup. That's pretty fun because they did a great job. So this was at Twickenham. It's now called a Lions Stadium, whatever. And I have to tell you, Twickenham Stadium, for being this amazing, historic, whatever, it was a shithole stadium, and I will tell you why. But first, the good news. So this was the largest crowd ever ever in the world for women's rugby. 81,885
Those are
people.
those are college football numbers, which you don't
Yes,
always
they
see
are.
in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, so they filled it up, for an NFL game that will come to the country or soccer games and things, concerts, right? But this is the biggest crowd ever in the world for women's rugby, almost up to the number of the men's largest crowd ever for men, which was pretty cool. This is the crowd. Of course, the home team, England, won the gold match. And this was the crowd, Megan, you'll be amazed. This was the crowd for like scanning over when England had just won.
That's cool. That's full. I love it. For those listening, this looks
This is
like
Twickenham Stadium. Yeah, the whole place is packed.
yeah, and it's bigger than most NFL stadiums. It's absolutely packed, absolutely rocking. So that's great. I always kind of chuckle, right? Like I know you have way more international experience than I do, but I always kind of chuckle when you see those international matchups and these like massive soccer games with these huge heated rivals, and there's like 40,000 people there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like, and again, I get it, smaller space, right? Walkable neighborhoods, all that kind of stuff. The UK is Europe is very different than America is. We don't have these like massive expansive. They don't have the expansive stadiums like we do, but you got to kind of laugh because there have been times where I feel like Texas high school football, certain games have rivaled those attendance numbers. So but it's cool. Different vibe for sure.
Yeah, we were chatting with some people there over the weekend and trying to explain what college football is like in America. It's just like they don't understand it. They have big crowds for, sporting events, of course, but to say, 105,000 people will be in a school, a local campus stadium, and another 10 million will be watching on TV. Like it just, the thoughts, and these players are making now hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it just the comprehension is like it's just not a thing that happens there, right? So let's say real quick, we'll dive into some Texas stories. A couple of shout outs. CB, what's up, ladies? Mike D, good evening, Longhorn family. Yeah, CB, a golf caddy is doing the Super Bowl halftime show. How crazy is that? We have a couple questions. We'll get to those at that time. My boys and I love Bad Bunny. Yeah, our barber plays Bad Bunny for the fresh cut. Yeah, that's an inspirational music to get a good cut. All right. Welcome everybody. All right, so let's get to it. Megan, a couple of Texas athletic things that we definitely want to cover. We're going to cover baseball, volleyball, basketball news, softball. And first, the biggest thing, and I want to hear your thoughts on this because you're the marketing, media, social media person. Tell me about the Texas being the number one brand value in college sports. We'll start there with our Texas talk.
Yeah, look, I say this over and over. Don't underestimate the value and the absolute like prowess of Texas's social media and just media teams in general. Like Texas is constantly leading in creative, leading with new ideas. They're certainly the ones that set the standard. So we get spoiled as fans to see, what Texas does, what they bring out, the crazy stuff. We love seeing these graphics and things, but that does pay off, right? That helps with sponsorships. That helps with these creative ideas and bringing other people in. That brings money into athletics and helps get eyeballs on it. I mean, it's all intertwined. So yeah, man, I try to give shout outs and love to our social media team and the creative team at Texas. They put so much hard work in, so much like blood, sweat, and tears. They are there. They work crazy hours. They're just so dedicated. So yeah, you love seeing the payoff. With Texas as again, a brand. It all goes into the most valuable brand in general. But bringing that money and bringing the social media stuff, like all of that, it all works together. And Texas is absolutely the leader. So again, as a marketing person, as a social media person, I love seeing it. I think it's awesome.
All right. So if you're listening and not watching, the top number one is social media value, total social value, 60 million, almost 61 million. Next, Ohio State, 51 million. Number 5 is Alabama at 32 million. Texas is twice number 5, right? So
Yeah.
Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Tennessee, Alabama, the top 5 in brand value. We've talked about this a million times. You can go anywhere in the world and that logo speaks for itself. Yeah.
It absolutely
CB,
does.
that's hilarious. Why aren't y'all broadcasting live from Chipotle? We'll talk about that. We'll bring that back up. That's hilarious. We'll come back to that. All right. So that's good. You're the media person, so you know how much work goes into building a brand like that. All right, so let's dive into Texas baseball. I want to share this great picture of you, Megan, and your friends at Texas Baseball. Who's in this picture with you?
Yeah, it's my buddies Steve and Eddie, my old guys, but I love them
We
to
know,
death.
yeah, I know Eddie. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
they're my baseball dudes. I don't know for the savvy watcher. So for those that didn't know, Texas took on Texas Tech at the Dell Diamond this past weekend. And Rocky, I don't know if you picked up on my low key dig with my shirt there. I had to rock the Texas softball national championship shirt.
Oh, I didn't even
And
notice the shirt. Sorry, that's
yeah,
awesome.
no,
Because
there were
it's
a couple
Tech
people.
against Tech. That's
There
great.
you go.
Love
There
it.
you
Love
go.
it. Well
I had to run
done.
in
Well
with
played.
that low key dig, but yeah,
Well
look,
played.
just some quick takeaways from this. I know that it's way early, way before baseball, but you love to see it. Texas looks good. I think Texas certainly, they've definitely built in the off season. Schloss has done a really good job in the portal and done a great job recruiting. I think we're going to see some power this year, Rocky. Like, we're looking at these
Okay.
guys at bats. They're seeing the ball well. The power is there. Again, you're in a minor league ballpark, but it's big. It's big compared to most college stadiums. And Texas had power. They were hitting well. They were placing the ball well. It was really nice to see. Pitching looks solid. Looks really good. Like, I think we've got some improvements over last year too. We're building on that. The other thing I did walk away with, and I will say this, Texas Tech historically has had some pretty good baseball teams over the year.
Oh, yes.
But I will say this, Texas Tech looks like trash this year. So it's early. It's way
It's early.
preseason.
It's early. They might have to
I'm not
figure out who
saying
they
that
have. Yeah.
they don't look good. So I'm sure Texas Tech walked away from that going, man, we got a lot to do. We got a lot to work on. And man, I'm glad Texas is no longer in the Big 12, because it was, again, this was an exhibition. This went by design. This went 12 innings. So it was an extended game. We knew that, like, Texas was leading well into 9 innings and just tacked a few more on afterwards. So for those, I know we're full on in football season, but for the baseball lovers out there, I think you got a lot to be excited for Texas. And just a quick program note with that, there is going to be, for those not traveling to Florida, for those that are going to be in town this weekend, there is another exhibition game this Friday. So a couple days from now on the 3rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Dish. And this one is 100% free. So this is bring your kids, bring the family, bring your friends, show up to the Dish, park, enjoy, have a hot dog, have some drinks, and get to watch a little bit of fall ball. So if you're around, I highly encourage it. This team is going to be really fun to watch this year. So yeah.
All right. And we'll make a note, because if you're going to that, Texas softball also has an event at the same time. So plan to park 25 miles away. There will be no parking. All right. Let's share something. Volleyball, we just saw them play Georgia just now. They swept Georgia at Georgia. It was another good match. Here are the stats just a couple days ago. We'll move to volleyball. John Bianco posted all of these wins. At this point, they had swept Missouri. They have swept Creighton, Wisconsin, Arizona State, TCU, Baylor, and Missouri. And tonight they swept Georgia. They haven't even dropped a set in weeks, right? This team is amazing. They are now 11-0, still ranked number 2, because until Nebraska loses, they will be number 2. They have a fantastic resume. What are you seeing from this team? I know you watched the match earlier tonight. What are you seeing from this team that really has you excited about this season?
Yeah,
going
again,
into SEC?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've been talking about, again, there's a lot of power and the youth on this team. I think the most impressive thing about Texas volleyball right now is just how this team plays with such confidence. They communicate well. they're playing well together. Like, I think this team is playing beyond their years for a young team, for a new group of girls for the most part. They look seasoned. They look like they're doing it. And kind of like we talked about last week, Rocky, with Texas, having fun matters. Enjoying the game you're playing
Yes.
matters. It has a huge impact. And I'll tell you, watching this volleyball team go out, they have a good time. This is a team that plays for the woman next to them. They're going out there, they're putting their bodies on the line. But they're also having a great time. You can just see it. It's fun to play volleyball, and it's hard not to get excited about that. It's hard not to be infectious. So again, I think this team is definitely prepped for a deep tournament run, if not a national championship run this year. I mean, they are that good. They're playing that well. And these are no slouch. Like, these are no slouches that they're
These are
playing up
ranked
against.
teams they're beating.
Right. Ranked teams,
Yeah.
Texas is winning on the road. They're winning at home. Of course, it's a long season. You have some back and forth. You have some nervous moments, but this team looks really, really good, Rocky. So again, I encourage y'all, if you have an opportunity, get out and check it out. Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. This is something that I saw earlier, was kind of laughing at. Shout out to my friend Eric who brought this to my attention. But here we are, the number 2 team in the nation again. Embarrassment of riches. And
Matches are
Georgia,
sold out now, weeks in advance at Gregory. Yeah.
correct. And Georgia here, Texas is coming to town, and my goodness gracious, they are giving away tickets for free and replica jerseys. Like, these aren't these are high value things just to get butts in seats at Georgia, just to watch them get swept. So sorry about that, Bulldogs. Sorry about that, but Texas came in. Again, it would be incredible for a free event during a regular season against a ranked team. But
Yeah.
looking at Texas, looking at Georgia, sorry, y'all, we ain't the same. We don't have trouble selling our stadiums out. We don't have trouble getting people to show up to support them.
It helps when you're winning. Texas went in there and swept Georgia 3-0. Texas had volleyball. They have Sunday they stay in that area. They have Mississippi State on Sunday. It's on the SEC network at 2 p.m. our time, Austin time, if you want to watch that. And then next Wednesday again, they also have that early dinner time, 6:30 p.m. match. This is a sold out match at Gregory Gym against Tennessee. So that's a good one. Who's the real UT? They're coming to town to meet the real UT. The women are now 11-0. And that's also on the SEC network if you can't be at Gregory Gym next Wednesday. So congrats, ladies. Keep it up. They're killing it. All right.
Absolutely.
Megan, Texas basketball got a big commitment. And this to me is really kind of special because it is a Westlake kiddo. Westlake is the best lake. I asked my daughter, do you know Bo Ogden? She's like, yes, of course she does. So this is the setup they had yesterday for the big announcement. I think it was at 2:00, something like that, at Westlake. And they had an announcement for Bo Ogden, who committed to the University of Texas. He's a top 40 national player. And of course, the son of Chris Ogden, who's part of the Texas basketball program. How exciting is that?
Yeah, it was super cool. Look, for those paying attention, those knowing the name, Texas might have had their finger on the scale a little bit there, right? With
it's hard to beat the home team, but they still had to win him out, right?
No doubt. But Chris Ogden, of course, the GM of Texas, that is, general manager. Again, his son has been around the program. Coach Ogden has been with Texas for 16 years. And we saw him, when Chris Beard left, he stayed with the Texas program, was picked up by, Coach Rodney. And then, of course, he's still there. So, like I said, I think I don't know that it came as a shock to a lot of people that his son chose Texas, but he was heavily, heavily recruited. So this is definitely a win in that category for basketball. And of course, Rocky, close, near and dear to your heart, right? With your Westlake.
Oh, I was happy. What would complete this Texas family recruiting cycle? Of course, Trevor Goosby's brother, Austin Goosby. That would be just amazing. But I'm so excited for Ogden family. to have a son that can play at that level, compete at that level, and then be really in the mix with other top schools, and then choose to come to Texas, that's a huge opportunity. Chris Ogden, the winningest player in Texas basketball history. Thanks for that nugget, CB. I also heard that Chris Ogden was the first high school recruit for Rick Barnes, and then his son will be the first high school recruit for Sean Miller. So that was an interesting fact I've heard over the last couple of days. So that's really cool. All right. So men's basketball, if you want to keep up, their first game is actually at Duke on November 7th, November 4th, a month from now. But right now you'll see practice things and cool videos coming, social media videos coming out of the basketball team. All right. So softball, Megan, we want to just hop around to all the things before we get to football, because we're getting to football. Softball played Temple. So they have a few free games at Red McCombs softball park. You know, they have some free games. And this was last night. They beat up on poor Temple 17-4. This one was a 10-inning match. And then they have a couple of matches, like scrimmages, preseason practice stuff, all for free. So just like that baseball game on Friday night, you can also go to the women's softball Friday night. Texas State is coming. We know how you feel about those fans.
Look, I know that's one of your alma maters. I will smile and we'll move on to the next topic.
I wasn't an undergrad person there. I've heard the undergrads can act silly. Yeah.
So what other thing? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Go ahead.
Rocky's dying over here. All right. One other thing we did want to bring up. You mentioned the coloring book, Rocky. What is that? Coloring book?
I have to show you this. So did you know when you go to cookies, the dang cookies. When you go to Texas softball website, like texassports.com or longhorns.com, whatever it is, when you click into softball, one of the choices you can get says softball coloring book, and you can download it and print it for you or your kids. But look at this. It has a page with the national champion. It has the coach White with his horns up. Look at this. Some of the best players. Look at that. They're in a coloring book.
That's awesome.
Isn't this great? Mia Scott. Look at that. So you can go see them. The best moments of the national championship, they turned into a coloring book.
I love it. That's got to be that's got to be a cool thing as a player to see, like, oh, hey, I'm a coloring book for kids. Like, that's cool, man. I dig it.
Look at that. Yes. So go to Texas Sports. This is at TexasLonghorns.com, TexasSports.com, either one. And if you click in softball, you can find the coloring book. That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Anyway, so Friday night, free Texas State. In a couple weeks, you can check the website. They have a couple more free games, including the Aggies coming to town October 17th, and that's also free. And then poor Our Lady of the Lake. I don't even want to know how many runs Texas softball is going to put on Our Lady of the Lake. All right. So one last thing before we wrap up athletics, and this is actually our rival, but we want to give some love because you and I are massive, massive dog lovers, animal lovers. And so we have to give respect to Miss Reveille, who has passed away. Aggie's mascot. She has passed away. We know she had that eye surgery recently. So
different. Yes.
Oh, different one. This is a different one.
Yeah. So Rev 9 is the one that passed away. She retired back in, and Aggie is going to correct me on this, but I think she retired back in 2021.
Oh, so this isn't the one that just had the eye surgery.
No. 10 is who replaced her. 10 had the eye surgery. So,
okay. It's still sad.
So yes, this is Rev 9, but I thought this was, I've got to say this, Rocky, like, again, I know there are rivals, but man, every live mascot is the best live mascot. I mean, Bevo is the bestest of the best, but I love Rev. And some of the traditions they have with her are pretty cool. I have to say that. I think it's pretty neat. I learned that, I know that she lives with her handler. So if it's the seniors that get to be Reveille's handler, but she lives with them and they take care of her 24/7. I learned that like Reveille doesn't leave the main handler's side. So if that handler goes on a date, guess what? Reveille's coming along with. Like, I thought that was kind of cool, kind of crazy, but I love it. Like, I thought that was a neat thing that they do. So anyway,
I mean,
that's a good dog. It's a good dog. Rest easy, Miss Rev.
all right. Does that sound better, Megan?
Getting there. Yeah, you've been a little choppy. Sorry, I've been like
Okay.
on the side trying to message you. Might be
yeah,
a connection thing, but we'll
right.
keep an eye on that.
CB says she'll get to see the score of the Aggie football game because the dead Reveilles have their own scoreboard at Kyle Field. Yes, they do. That's pretty cute. All right. So just, sweet dogs. All right. It's not her fault she's an Aggie.
Hey,
no, we love all the sweet dogs. We love all the sweet dogs. All right.
Spoiled dog out there.
Good. I hope every dog should be living their best life. Every dog. I posted a picture last night of my dog taking up my whole bed. Like I would, have to move her to get into my bed. All right. So let's move on to Texas football at Florida, Megan. Big game. SEC conference play begins. It was interesting when Sark talked on the SEC on the game week media on Monday. There's teams like Ole Miss who are already 3-0 in SEC play. And we haven't even played a game yet in the SEC.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rocky. This is something I do kind of want to talk about because you see a lot of talk, a lot of John about scheduling, about how things play out. And I wanted your thoughts on this. I wanted to kind of feel you out. So I think it's interesting that Texas, look, there are some arguments that Texas does not have a hard schedule, right? Of course, we heard that narrative. When you join every game in the SEC is
it's
tough.
A gauntlet. It's a gauntlet until it's Texas, then it's easy schedule.
Right. Now Texas is here. Now it's an easy schedule. But again, the argument could be made that Texas is playing ranked teams. And I don't think anybody can argue that Texas going in, that takes some brass balls, going into the number one school in the nation, a historical blue blood, going there for your first game, for your tune-up game, going toe-to-toe with them, might I add, on the road, even considering that Texas looked bad, like just outright bad in that game.
The offense did. The defense did not.
Yeah, and still went toe-to-toe with Ohio State, keeping it within the one score. Look, I like that scheduling. I like that Texas goes out and says, look, first game, second game, we're going to get a big name. And we know that looking forward into the seasons upcoming. Of course, we've got Ohio State again. We've got Michigan on the schedule. We've got Notre Dame on the schedule. So Texas isn't backing away. And I think it's been a long-running criticism, at least from us, Rocky. I know that. But I think from a lot of people, looking at some of these SEC teams that schedule, FCS schools, these lower competition late in November. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain on this. You're right. Again, I think looking at the other side of this, you could argue that Florida certainly has been challenged more than Texas has overall early on. They've been challenged more consistently. But then you look at it and Florida's suffering through some injuries, right? We got the injury report. We'll dive into that a little bit. But is it better that Texas has a really, really strong opponent to kick the season off and then a couple of cupcakes and then going into it, it's just SEC schools closing out? Or would you rather see a schedule more like Florida where you start your conference play a little bit earlier, maybe you backload it with a few cupcakes? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's beneficial for Texas?
I think
or
there's pros and cons either way. If you're more likely to be healthier early in the season, but also you don't have those practice, those glorified scrimmage practice games under your belt, right? So I think there's pros and cons both ways. The other team, if you play them early, they're not ready to go either. We saw the first game of the season was the Ireland game, and that was a Big 12 matchup. Was that Arizona State, Kansas State? I don't even remember. So long ago already. But
K-State, Iowa State, wasn't it?
Iowa State, yeah, something like that. Yeah. So it's been there's pros and cons, right, to either way. But at the end of the day, you can just play the schedule you're dealt. And if Florida has been a little more tested, but they're also a little bit more beat up. And so when we look at that, so there's, Texas is going to come fresh, more fresh, at least we thought, until we saw this report. All right, so let's get into the game day. It is Saturday. It's going to be 3:30 Eastern time, 2:30 Austin time on ESPN. And you are going to the game. Saw somebody ask you that earlier. If you're going to be at the Swamp, Mike Diaz.
I will be there. I'll be there. I'll be swampy and sweaty. And
Yuck.
it is supposed to be, again, we'll talk about this, but the weather does not look great. They're already talking about having delays. I mean, we're what, 3 days out, and we're already talking weather delays because of rain and conditions. For anybody familiar with the state of Florida, obviously, like, afternoon showers are normal. That's not an uncommon thing, but this is 70% chance of rain. It's supposed to be pretty wet there. There might be some wind going on, some issues there. So, yeah, I will be heading there. Yeah, again, you can see right as, for those listening, we've got a graphic pulled up, but it's about 2 o'clock, about 3 o'clock, right about kickoff time, that the rain chances go up, and then they actually increase throughout the game. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think this is certainly, Rocky, this is definitely going to be a factor in this game. But yeah, I'll be heading out. I'm driving. I'm taking the dogs because I'm crazy. I'm an idiot, I guess. I don't know. But I'll be taking the dogs with us. We haven't been to the Swamp before, so gonna take them there. Show up. I'll leave Thursday night, roll in midday Friday, hopefully, and be ready to party on Saturday. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And let's just get into this. Let's talk about it as we're talking about this game. Maybe a little bit early, right? Weather, Rocky. How is this going to affect the game? Does it affect the game with Texas's issues? With Arch Manning, there's some questions about the throws. Is the confidence there? How do you think this weather is going to affect this game?
It's going to be so. It was already going to be a messy offense. Both offenses have struggled. Texas did have some success against a really, really bad team. Florida, but they are both statistically, Texas and Florida are both statistically terrible in a lot of categories. The bottom, ranked over 100, out of the top 100 in many, many categories on offense. Third downs, just the struggle bus for both offenses. Texas should feel like they're coming off some momentum off their last performance. Florida should not feel like they are coming off momentum from their last performance. But they also both have elite defenses. So it was already going to be struggle bus for both offenses. But now you add in the trouble of this weather and this rain, and you're going to have, the turnovers that Florida has been facing, the turnovers that Texas has been facing with the, fumble issues and things like that. This is going to be a messy, sloppy, slow game. And it's not going to get the two quarterbacks that really needed to get their arms moving and feel some success in the air and move the ball, maybe some sparks and chunks, things like that. That's going to be few and far between in this weather against these defenses. So I'm thinking that this is going to not be a beautiful game.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a grinded out. It's a really interesting kind of combination. I feel like the theme for this week is crossroads, right? But it's this perfect storm of two offenses that are incredibly talented but have struggled a little bit. Quarterbacks that maybe are working on finding their groove but haven't gotten there consistently. But then you throw in this weather element where you want to make sure that you have running backs. You want to make sure that you can keep it on the ground, keep that ball secure, not necessarily be slinging it through pouring rain, right? And that does add a whole nother element on top of the challenges that both of these teams are already facing. So now add in yet another layer is this initial injury report. So this was just released tonight. Again, we are recording Wednesday night, live on Wednesday night, and just released for Texas. CJ Baxter, doubtful, listed as questionable. Mosley, Quintravian Wisner, and Kobe Black, and then probable Malik Muhammad and Xavier Afilsimi. So for Texas, there's some thoughts here, right? Now, Florida released, there's nobody questionable or doubtful or probable. I kind of like the game that Sark might be playing here. It's varying degrees of maybe, right? Florida outright out. Their running back, Webb is out. Their edge, McCray. They've got a couple of DBs out in Gates and Johnson. One of their defensive linemen, Banks, is out. And then they're missing two running backs, so Webb and Jacoby Jackson. So, Rocky, when we first looked at this injury report, what was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction, my thought all week is if we have to be able to run the ball with experienced runners who, even though they are missing some D line, they're still very talented on the defensive front, and they're good at stopping the run. Even though they've struggled in games in offense, their defense has kept them in every game this season. And my first thought was if we can go in there and run the ball, that will also give, Arch, time, and opens up the playbook, and he can make more things happen with play action and all those other things. When I thought maybe Baxter, is he coming? Is he not? He's doubtful. And Wisner is now questionable. We know he's been resting the last few weeks, but now he's listed as not even probable, but questionable. That, to me, I saw those two on the list and I said, oh no. I love the young talent, Gibson, and we love what we've seen from Simon and Clark so far, but you need that trusted experience in these hostile environments. And then until Texas puts them away and has them shouting, fire Billy, like they did a few weeks ago, until they can get up and have that crowd quiet, it is going to be hostile, even in the rain. And then you also have like I said a minute ago, those controlling turnover issues, or, controlling the ball and handling it with care. And in that wet, messy, that really worries me, seeing both those names. And even if they do play, they're not going to be near 100%. Baxter probably won't play. And if Wisner does play, he's not going to be 100%. And that worries me big time, seeing those names. What about you when you saw that report?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel great, right? I still am leaning towards the Sark is playing games. He hates having to release these reports. SEC rules dictate that you have to have an initial injury report out on Wednesday, and I know that he does not love that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I think there might be a little bit of a chess match going on here. And Billy didn't get the note, right? So I do think, look, I'm holding out hope. I'm forever the optimist here. You're right. It's not great news. You don't want to see that your two most experienced running backs are out in a game where rain can be an equalizer. That you need to have that ground game to be able to balance out your play in questionable conditions. No doubt whatsoever. What I will say, though, where I do feel better, if I'm looking for that burnt orange lining in the cloud, I'm going to say, I do think that Clark, I do think that Simon, I do think that Gibson they've made some good strides. We feel good after that Sam Houston game. I think the whole team needed that, but we've seen better ball security from Gibson. That's, to me, he would be up there in the mix as, RB2, maybe RB1, if he could figure out that ball security. But he has improved on that this year, in my opinion. Again, I think that while Simon is young, we've seen some really smart plays from him. He's a patient runner. So while it's not the best of news that your two most experienced running backs are out, potentially, that you may be without two big leaders on your team, I still feel good that our guys have some experience on the ground there. I do. I'll say that. Now, where I think the bigger effect is going to come in, we've talked about the leadership role that Wisner has taken. It's become really obvious in his absence how much, again, we saw it against UTEP, a little bit against San Jose. Now, again, Sam Houston State, sorry, Bearcats, you guys are just terrible. So it's easy to mask some issues. But certainly in those games before, we saw there was a noticeable gap in that leadership there. We missed having him on the field. So to me, yeah, that is where it's going to impact Texas the most, is having that leadership in a hostile environment, in this SEC crazy place against a very, very good defense. So yeah, at the end of the day, I don't love it, but I'm not crushed by it. I don't think Texas is completely out of the running here. So let's dive in a little bit more. Rocky, do you mind pulling up the stats? And shout out to our buddy Nash, who always has some really great stat comparisons here. So this is something that we've been talking about, Rocky. Again, full disclosure, since the beginning of the season, I've had Florida circled, even, before we knew that they were going to be in this position, before we knew that DJ Lagway was going to be struggling a little bit. But I'll still say this, I don't think my position's changed. I've had this game circled for Texas as a potential trap game because Florida is very talented. Florida's got the talent. It's just, can they execute? Can they put it together? Can they string? Can they figure that out? Texas has had some similar issues. We know that they're talented. It's just the execution that's been lacking. So let's dive into the stats. Is there anything here that jumps out against you with the Texas defense versus Florida offense, or Florida defense versus Texas offense?
It jumps out how much green for Texas offense. I didn't think that they would be had a chance to be that productive against the Florida defense. The Florida defense, though, we're just going to go back to that run game for 20 different reasons. Establishing a solid run game in this weather with a quarterback that's trying to get, keep building on that confidence from that good play, to the leadership, like you just mentioned, of Wisner and Baxter, all those things on the road, in the noise, establishing the run, setting the physicality, all those things really concern me, especially against a team like Florida that is really good against the run, just like Texas is. Not sure. What did you see that stood out to you?
Yeah, look, I was encouraged with this. We know that these defenses are elite defenses. They're very, very, very good. I liked seeing that Texas has the edge in almost every category. Again, with all of the questions that we've had with Arch, with all of the concerns that we've had with this Texas offense, and knowing that the Florida defense is very good, I liked how we matched up here. I feel like this very much favors Texas. I think, again, there's a lot of what ifs, and this is one of those games that could go either way. But if Texas is able to build on the success and the confidence, I would even argue that the confidence is a bigger factor for Texas offense than the success or the numbers or the stats, right?
Yeah.
If Texas can hold on to that, again, I hate to be so touchy-feely about this, but truly, if Arch Manning can hold on to that feeling, hold on to and build on the success that he had with his confidence, because we know it's not, Arch's issues have never been a talent problem. It's never been the kid forgot how to play football issue. It's all been in his head. So if he can hold on to that confidence, know that he's got it, and work through even some little things, challenges with the weather. If every ball isn't perfect, that's okay. If every play isn't perfect, as long as Arch can hold on to that confidence, looking at these stats, we know that the defense is going to keep them in. I think Texas has a really good chance in this game. I'll say that.
I was feeling more confident until I saw that injury report. Until I saw Baxter doubtful and Wisner questionable. Until I saw that, I was feeling pretty good about this game. Now, I'm not so sure, and especially like we've been hoping to have a Emmett Mosley sighting this week. We know Michael Taft was praising Emmett Mosley for being, a tough blocker and a solid player. If you get that kind of praise from the All-American safety across the way, that you must have done some good stuff in camp. So now we see Mosley. We heard he was practicing, but is he going to play now? He's questionable as well. Just to have more options in the passing game. We did see more and Wingo come on a bit. We haven't seen enough of injuries. Maybe there have some stuff. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think Sark's been saving stuff? I don't know. What can you really save? We've been needing everything the last few weeks. Do you think he's been when I read that, when I listened to him say that, I didn't really think he was saying, oh, we've been saving things. To me, it was more like, we this is what we can do, and we're going to build on it and add on it, because as they get better and smarter and more experienced throughout the year, then you can keep opening up the playbook. You don't it's true, you don't need to show everything against Sam Houston State, but also as they run those things in real game time against real, live action, then they can come back and look at the film and add on to it. Did you take it that he was like intentionally saving things for SEC play?
Short answer, yes. I think Sark is really good at this wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing. I think he's really good at, he schemes well. And I will say this, if you go back and look at last year's game, again, Florida had a good defense last year. And for the first half of the game in Austin, Florida's defense was just blowing coverage left and right. They did not know what was coming at them.
They were in the spin cycle.
They absolutely were. Sark really schemed well to open up against Florida. I think we see something similar. Now, I will say this. We know that Sark's not going to pull out all the stops against teams like Sam Houston State. He's not going to pull out the stops against UTEP. He's probably not going to pull out the stops against, San Jose. So to me, yes, there's still a lot in the bag there, because while you do want to be competitive and you play hard and you do everything right, Ohio State was still on the road. You're still figuring out your offense. And then when you had those challenges early on with fundamentals with your offense, you're not going to throw the craziest plays at an offense that can't execute basic plays, right? So whether it's been by design or whether it's been by necessity, I certainly do not think that Texas has showed everything that they have in their bag. I think Sark has a lot built up. So yeah, I do feel that Texas has a lot hidden and schemed up for Florida and for SEC play. So in that sense, I feel, again, maybe this is overconfidence, but we know when Sark puts his mind to it and gets that little twinkle in his eye, the man can scheme up some football plays. That's for sure.
Well, he's going to be earning his paycheck on Saturday on the road, because the weather, injuries, an offensive line that is still coming together, learning to work together. All of that will be a challenge on the offense. One thing he can hang his hat on, impressive, as special teams that has been impressive so far, and one of the top defenses in the country. They always say, if you're going on the road, pack your run game, pack your defense. Well, we might not be packing the whole run game, but we will be packing that defense. Let's look at this. The national scoring defense rankings. Texas, number 2 in the country. There's Oklahoma right behind it, number 3. But of the SEC, Texas is above and beyond the best in the SEC so far in scoring defense. And I'm surprised the Aggies down at 72. That's an improvement for them, down at 72. They went up the rankings a bit, playing a horrific Auburn team, which we'll talk about. So what are you looking most forward to watching this defense go against a struggling? Are we going to learn anything from them going against an offense that's really been struggling? And how many interceptions should they get? Because Lagway gives them away.
Look, I think this is, I'm going to preface all of my next take by saying, if DJ Lagway can start to put the pieces together against Texas, we're in for a long day. I think that's going to, it will up the challenge. Lagway is completely capable of being a really, really, really good quarterback. He's very talented, but like Arch Manning early, he's in his head a little bit, right? He had the injuries throughout training, throughout the offseason, and he's been plagued by injuries, as we know, leading up to this game. It takes a little bit to knock the rust off. And if your guy that's leading your entire offense doesn't have his confidence, is struggling a little bit with the rust, isn't quite there, I'm even going to shout out again, Rod Babers. If you guys listen to him, he mentioned earlier this week, he thinks that Lagway's put on a little bit of weight, not necessarily good weight, but again, like, this isn't a criticism. It's just like, you haven't had the ability to work out and go 110% on your practices and on your workouts. It's possible you get a little fluffy, right? And so I do think all of these factors play into that. As far as I see it, you asked, are we gonna learn anything from the Texas defense in this game? I don't know. Learning is going to be coming into that. I think we already know this Texas defense is elite. They are one of the best, if not the best, defense all around in the nation. So we know that already. I don't think there's much more to learn. Now, there are opportunities for Texas to get even better, to impose their will. But as far as, like, you just brought up that stat, as far as scoring defenses, Texas is the number 2 scoring defense in the nation. Again, people don't score on Texas. We are holding our opponents to something like 7.8 points per game. So couple that with a struggling offense in Florida, I feel good about the Texas defense. I'm not concerned on that side of the ball. I think, again, it's going to be more about his mentality and they're going to be playing for pride. They're going to be playing for their coach, right? They're going to be playing. DJ Lagway is going to be playing to prove, like, he was recruited by Texas. He's going to be playing to prove himself as a quarterback amidst all this, pressure. How he handles it, I think, is really going to make or break how this game goes.
All right, let's look at Lagway. The Florida football posted this little quick clip of him throwing the ball. Watch this, Megan. It's just this little bit, like, I guess, to prove he's not in a boot, he can throw the ball. All of the comments were, and that ball was intercepted. Why don't you show where the ball actually went? Like,
look,
he's up on his feet throwing the ball.
We talked about Texas social media being the best. You're right. That is perhaps not the best way to qualm everybody's fears.
They should show where the ball went.
Is he connecting with anything?
Even if they edit it, somebody else threw it and somebody else caught it. It didn't matter. But okay, let's Texas defense should have a solid plan for Florida, even though they have one of the best running backs, a ball, right? They have one of the best running backs. They still haven't been able to feed him enough and get the ball going on the ground. Texas, if their goal, they should be able to slow down that run game, especially in a sloppy wet game. They should be able to slow down that run game of Florida and force a quarterback who right now has more interceptions than touchdowns. They should be able to force him into bad throws or running for his life on a leg that was just in a boot.
Yeah, look, I think this is where in the pocket, Lagway stands tall. He does well. He sees things well. The second that you flush him out, given his injuries and given where his head is at right now, that's when he starts getting in trouble. So if Texas defense can get in there, put some pressure on him, make him see ghosts, that's when he starts to make really dumb decisions. That's where his interceptions have come, right? When he's been in pressure. The other thing about this too, Rocky, that we haven't talked about is third and long situations. Now, this is an area that Texas has struggled, given penalties, given mental lapses, given, the inability to get those dink and dunk fundamentals at times. Texas has struggled here too, but Florida is really, really struggling by putting themselves in third and long situations. And again, shout out to Babers for this. We appreciate him and all his research, but his stats was saying something like almost 90% of Lagway's interceptions have come when they're in a third and long situation. So if Texas defense can put him there, keep that yardage short, put him in bad situations, get in Lagway's head, make him make those bad decisions, make him feel like he has to be the hero, that's where he gets himself in trouble this year. So I think the defense applying that pressure, getting it out of the pocket and making him hear those footsteps coming, that's going to do that. That to me is a huge key to the game here.
Well, this is not the time we want Liveway to figure it out, right? We want Texas defense to be all over him. So let's go, Megan, with some keys to the game. I'll let you go first. What are your keys for a Texas win this weekend?
Yeah, like I said earlier, my concern all season has been Florida's a trap game. I don't want Texas to fall into this comfort zone of, look, you beat up a really shitty Sam Houston State team. You put a 50 burger on them and you shut them out. So I'm glad you got your confidence back, but now you've also had this bye week to get healthy, maybe, but also maybe you build a little bit of that. I don't want to call it false confidence because I don't think it's that. I think getting the experience for everybody, getting those plays in, that's good for Texas. What I worry about is we've beat up on a bad team. Maybe we're a little overly confident going into the swamp in Florida with a wounded Florida team, right? We know they have some injuries. We know that they haven't performed up to Florida standards. So maybe we feel pretty comfortable there. And oh, by the way, our quote unquote real test is the week after this against OU. We've had that circled. We know that that's a big game. I worry that this is a game that if Texas doesn't stay right mentally, this game can get really ugly. So big key for me in this game, like we've been talking about, Texas has to keep their head right. They have to stay focused. They have to be confident, but not cocky. They've got to understand that this is still a very dangerous team, right? A wounded, capable team is a threat. We're in the swamp.
Yep.
It's going to be an aggressive and difficult environment to play in. So I think a key to the game here, Texas has to keep their head right. They have to minimize mistakes. They have to, and again, Texas hasn't been great at that this week. You got to keep those penalties to a minimum. You can't shoot yourself in the foot in a situation like this. You can't put any blood in the water for Florida to try to take advantage of. Another thing here too, I really want to say, like, we've got to see the Texas O-line step up. There have been some questions there, but in this kind of environment, in the rain, in a hostile place, you have got to give Arch Manning time to make his throws, to see the field, to go through his reads, and to make decisions. So that has to be consistent. Rocky, to your point, the running game helps that. So that running game has to step up. I would say the other part of this too, special teams are going to play a huge role in this. Again, Texas, we know that Texas can flip the field. Weather is going to play a factor here. I feel like this is going to be a game that's going to be really close in the first half. Love it or hate it, putting in all these factors, the challenges with each team's offense, the weather, the environment, can Texas's special teams flip a field? Can they make it that much more difficult and give that much more of an advantage to the Texas defense? I think special teams are going to make play a big role in this when yards might be difficult to come by, when your running backs are out, when you're struggling a little bit here, the Texas special teams has to be able to give every advantage to Texas. So those are some big keys to the game to me. How about you, Rocky?
All right. I'm going to show you, Megan, the Florida's schedule so far. They, ran circles around Long Island. They thought they were in it, right? But when you look at the USF game, the one that they lost at home, it was one of those games where Florida even had the lead for, in the fourth quarter, but USF found a way to win that game. If you look at LSU and Miami, in the third and fourth quarters of these games, there was still a one possession game. So Florida is one of those teams that the defense, like we said a minute ago, the defense is going to keep them in this game. And the defense is going to get stops and going to get turnovers or going to, force punts. But what you have to do with this team is keep chipping away at them.
Mhm.
Find a way, especially USF found a way, LSU found a way, Miami pulled away late, but it was a game, up until through the third quarter, it was still a game. So find a way, keep chipping away, trust your plan. I hope they have the depth at running back this week to keep pounding on that defensive line and eventually do like Miami did and, run it down their throat when they're exhausted. I think
Right.
that's going to be the thing I'm sure Texas knows this. This is a team that the defense is going to fight for the whole 60 minutes. The offense may or may not find their way. And that's what Texas needs to do is stick with the game plan, a 60-minute game. It's going to be messy. It's going to be sloppy, but don't let that, get you distracted from the goal of this game, which is to be 1-0 in conference play. And that's all that matters at the end of this game is get out of there 1-0, right? The weather, like you mentioned, is going to be a mess. I'm sorry you have to sit in that windy rain or delays or whatever's going to happen in that game. The line on this game has stayed around 6.5 for Texas. It opened at 7.5. It's been around 6.5 for a while now. So do you want to go ahead and make our score picks now? Or do you want to put those after we do the college football picks?
That's up to you. Let's
save it. Let's save our score predictions.
All right.
So let's go quickly. Is there anything else you want to say about Florida before we make our college football picks?
Look, this is one of those games that I feel like I've gone back and forth on. I'm worried about this as a trap game. If Texas can keep their head right and do the things that we know how to do, I feel better. But yeah, this to me is going to be one of those games where it either goes really, really well for Texas, or dear God, we're in for a long season. And I think this is gonna mention that. So before we make our picks, definitely let's jump in. I do want to give a quick shout out though before we jump in to college football, talking about our picks and things.
Hold on, let me do one more thing with Florida real quick.
Okay.
One more Florida comment. This is what the fans are going to be cheering on the way out of the stadium. I don't know if y'all remember that, but a few weeks ago when they played USF, the entire crowd was cheering fire. Well, not the entire, but many fans were cheering Fire Billy. That's at the Florida Stadium. They're cheering Fire Billy on the way out.
Rocky, you're not wrong though. And I do think I'm going to add this as a key to the game. As silly as it sounds, as much as people think, oh, who cares? Fans don't matter. They do. We talk about how aggressive this environment is. Arch has mentioned it, right? He hasn't played there, but Eli and Peyton have, and they've talked to him about what to expect in the swamp. Florida fans are rabid. They love their team. They're a proud group. They are going to be loud and raucous and crazy. It's going to be insane weather. It's going to be a place like everybody loves to hate Texas. This is the first time Texas has played there in years and years and years. So I anticipate a really crazy environment. If Texas can get off to a fast start and at the very least, take the crowd out of this game early and get them to turn on their own coach early, I think that's going to matter. That's going to change the vibe of this game. It's going to change the pressure. Like, where is the pressure? Who is the pressure on in this game? I think that matters. So I'm glad you brought that up, Rocky. Thank you.
All right. So before we get to college football, you had something you wanted to say?
I did. I wanted to give a quick shout out to our friend, Chuck Smith. You guys, if you are looking for an incredible getaway in the Austin area where you just want to relax, take it all in, and not pay crazy Austin prices, look no farther than the Rockin' Diamond S Ranch. You've got to check it out. Again, this property sleeps 14 people with one primary home and 2 fully furnished cabins, and it's nestled on a beautiful 120 acres in the hill country just near Johnson City. So it's a quick drive to Austin or San Antonio. Again, there's so much to do there, y'all. Look, check out this pool. It is gorgeous at the home. You can do that. You can go fishing on the multiple ponds on the property. You can go hunting. You can go wildlife watching, or you can just hang out with the Longhorns and say hi to Gabriel for me. Again, it's a great time. Or you can just pop into 5 minutes from downtown Blanco with breweries, eateries, shopping, and more. No matter what you're looking for, this is the perfect getaway in the Texas Hill Country. So if it's a staycation or a trip for a game or anything like that, you've got to check out Rockin' Diamond S Ranch. Again, that's Rockin', like rocking with no G, rockindiamondsranch.com, or give our friend Chuck Smith a call at 512-694-1969. Tell him Fire the Cannon sent you. All right, Rocky. So now that we're cozy in the hill country, we've settled in. Let's check out some college football games this weekend.
All right, so we'll just go over some of the biggest stories of last weekend. I think that one of the biggest stories was there was a few upsets. We picked a lot of these games correctly, even the crazy ones. Florida State went into Virginia, and Virginia rushed the field, trampling not only their own players, but other players. Watch this video, Megan. They took off trampling players on the field.
Look.
You know how I feel about rushing the field. I think it's for sad programs who've never won anything, who finally beat. Florida State was what, 1-11 last year, 2-10, whatever they were last year. And
they're
you're going to
better this year.
They're better, but they're still a shite program right now. And you're going to rush the field for beating them in double overtime. Like,
look, I take a slightly
players.
Look, I take a slightly less harsh take on rushing the field. It is not for Texas. If Texas were to rush the field on a game other than the national championship, I would be mortified. We don't rush the field until the Natty. We don't dogpile until Omaha. I am a firm believer in that. I will say that for Texas. However, for other programs, look, man, I understand it. I think it's part of the joy of college football. You're part of the team. You go to classes with these players. You feel
you trample them.
No, look, I get that. I understand.
It's dangerous.
Where I take issue, and I agree wholeheartedly. You and I were talking. We were texting during this game, and again, maybe this is my old lady. Maybe we need a new segment of Megan shakes her old lady cane in the air. But to me, before this even happened, seeing those players. So, for those that aren't familiar, Virginia's field is a lot like Clemson in the sense that they've got that hill that leads into the field, but there's no barriers. There's no walls. There's nothing keeping any of the students from coming from that sloping hill onto the field. And towards the end of the game, where the students were starting to pile up and there were like 3 security guards, all I could think is, oh God, this is going to get ugly. Oh God, this is going to get ugly. And sure enough, like, look, again, I'm all for rushing the field. I have no problem with that. But I do think schools need to do a better job of protecting players. That's where it gets dangerous. And we saw this here. My instant thought was getting trampled by people is dangerous as hell. So there were multiple players in the end zone, right? There was the wide receiver. There was a couple of DB. There was a DB and maybe a safety. But you're right, Rocky. It was not just Florida State players, but it was also Virginia players that just got outright run over. And that's where I go, this is where a serious injury can happen. And God forbid, I know this is a little bit different, but you remember he has trouble with the snap back in 2015, where Michigan State beat Michigan in the Big House. It was just like a crazy, Michigan State was not supposed to win that. The Michigan player flubbed the punt. Michigan State took it, ran it in, scored, and won the game when time was off the clock. The player that did that, he got dogpiled by his own team, and they broke his pelvis. So, like, now imagine, 10,000 students running over players there. It just gets dangerous. It just gets scary. So, while I personally think it's fun to watch field rushing, I appreciate it. I do think there is still, first and foremost, an obligation to the players to keep them safe. And situations like what happened at Virginia are going to be why field rushing gets banned outright. Like it just is going to happen. It was a scary moment.
What about this classy dude who had to take a picture of himself giving the finger to a player in his face because he's a classy adult? And I know you posted this. This is the same vibes.
Same energy. Same energy, man. And look, CB,
OU fan putting horns down in the face of the cheerleaders.
Yeah, and this was you can see this happening. This was very early on. for those watching, it's a grown ass man throwing horns down and filming himself. Like, again, horns down, whatever, but doing that in front of a group of cheerleaders. This is where, and Rocky, I was at this game. I remember
Coming
this
up
too.
and doing it at them, like in their face.
In their face, right? Just celebrate your team. Don't worry
Just-
about the other. Celebrate your team. And you can see the people starting to jump over on the field in Lubbock there. Again, same vibes. Look, I'm all for celebrating your team's wins, but this is where, and I had that same issue in Lubbock, and I got lambasted by some of our own fans, but it was dangerous. Like, it was to the point Lubbock, Texas Tech did not have enough security out there to safely get not just our players, but also Texas Tech players off the field before the fans were just like there. So look, man, again, rush the field, do your jams, but there has got to be a solution of protecting players. We saw the video from that too. There was a hard shove in the back, right? Like, players are going to get hurt. And the second that there is a season-ending injury, or God forbid, a career-ending injury, there's going to be lawsuits. And this is going to turn into a thing where it's going to be unpleasant for everyone. So,
and these celebrating students are often just, when are they ever going to have the opportunity to go put hands on a player? And if that player retaliates in any way, the player is in trouble. I mean, it's just, nothing good comes from them rushing the field. And also tells me you've never won anything. All right, so we'll move on. We'll move on quickly. Ohio State and Washington were toe to toe for about a half, and then Washington pulled away. Ohio State pulled away. Another big win for Julian Sayin on the road against an undefeated Washington team. This was a good one. Oregon, Penn State. I think I picked Oregon to win this because I felt like Penn State wasn't as tested. Did you go ahead and go with Oregon in your picks?
I did.
Yeah.
I
All
did.
right. Apparently Drew Allard, that's just his thing, is to throw the game-losing interception. And their last three big games, he's ended with the interception. That was double overtime.
But double overtime.
And Rocky, before we move to overtime, because they were down big early.
Yeah, and before we move on, I do want to ask you about these overtime. Like, we know that the A&M LSU game heavily affected that crazy.
They had to change it because of that. Yeah,
heavily
7 overtimes, wasn't it? 7 overtimes. CB will know. I think it was something crazy.
But that game heavily influenced this. What do you feel about these new overtime rules in college football? Because it's different than the NFL.
Oh yeah, different than the NFL. I would love the whole game to just be overtime play. Like, I love the overtime rules so much, especially I just love them. I love, starting at the 25, I love taking turns going first. I love you have to go 4-2 after this, the second overtime. I love all of it. I love overtime, college football overtime.
I also love that it can't end in a tie, right?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
There are rules here. And maybe we talk about that a little later with NFL talk. As a Cowboys fan, I can feel your pain and your heat over there. But yeah, I gotta say, maybe this is an unpopular opinion.
Overtimes.
Thank you. And they do have cups. Thank you, CB. But look, I don't want to watch a 7 overtime. This game is now, I mean, hell, Texas went into the 5 overtimes with OU a few years back. It was brutal. That game was close to 6 hours. I like the new rules in college football that shorten the overtime. The whole intent was to keep overtime short and to keep extra play short. So I like it. I've got to say, I agree with you. I like it.
I love college
better
overtime.
System. I'm there with you. I'm right there with you.
All right. LSU lost at Ole Miss. Big game. Alabama went to Georgia, and they are now have beaten them 8 of the last 9 games, something like that. Alabama, the SEC Shorts people did their little funny Monday morning skit, and they had them at Maury being like, "You are Georgia's daddy."
Look, we know that Georgia has been a powerhouse, especially recently.
Oh, Kirby Smart. Texas has nothing to say about it because
no doubt. But Kirby Smart has an Alabama problem. While we might not be able to beat Georgia, damn it, at least we can beat Alabama.
Yeah, 33-game home winning streak. Of course, I was wishing it was Texas that came in and beat their 35 game winning streak by then. But Alabama. That was a good game. I was up in the middle of the night in London watching that game. Auburn and Texas A&M, snooze fest, ugly, awful win. You know your win is ugly and awful when the media is negative about your win. Megan, this is Elko telling the crowd, telling the reporters what to talk about. Watching.
Does anybody want to ask a question about like us being 4-0 for the first time since 2016, or how did the defense bounce back, or how about you held them to 176 yards on offense and you had 5 sacks and they were 0 for 12 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth down and you got the return game going again? Like, I don't mean to sound like someone else, but my gosh, will you guys stop being so dreadful and gloomy?
Well, we're only halfway through this.
Yeah. Next one.
Well, anyone asked me about how our stats were really, dude. We have eyeballs. The people in the room have eyeballs. Their defense did great. Still, the stats were better when OU played them, but the defense did fine. Their offense was anemic and barely scored 16 points at home. And he wants to cry about the reporters asking questions. Like, that was weird.
I'm so on the fence about this. I hate being an Elko truther, but I kind of get what he's saying. Like, we are in an age of college football where the parity is crazy. It's not the haves and the have-nots anymore. It's the have a lot and the have kind ofs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're starting to see, with the transfer portal, with NIL, with all of these things, all of these factors, we're seeing some of the teams that historically haven't been contenders start to bump up a little bit. We're seeing some of the teams that have been powerhouses starting to have some struggles, right? Like, I think it is fair to say in today's day and age, especially in this season, you look at it, I can't pick any one team that feels untouchable. Where in years past, some of Saban's Alabama teams, Texas, USC back in the legacy days, right? Like, there were teams that were untouchable. You just knew they were 1 and 2 throughout the season. Nobody could touch them. They're running up 50 points on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We are no longer in those days. So I can appreciate, at the end of the day, a win is a win is a win. And in today's college football, it doesn't matter necessarily if you won by 20 or 10 or 5 or 1. If you're playing good competition and you win, the W is what matters.
Mm-hmm.
And given where A&M has been, and given that they're always relegated to being 8 and 4 or worse, or right, like, I appreciate where he's coming from. Like, I feel that frustration. Like, my God, can you guys not just say something good for once? We won the game. Let's celebrate the wins versus like getting pissed about it wasn't the perfect win. Now, flipping
It was
that,
pretty ugly.
the media is just doing their job.
I mean, I'll
get
take an
that.
ugly win any day, but it was ugly.
So again, the media is just doing their job. I don't fault the reporters for asking the questions that they were asking, but I also can empathize with where Elko is like, dude, we just won. It's the SEC, no easy games, right? Like, we came through, we won. Now, removing from all of that, Rocky, I feel better. I've said this prior to tonight. I'm going to keep saying this until they prove otherwise. At this stage, before this game where Texas plays Florida, I do feel that A&M and OU are better, more rounded, better football teams than Texas is right now. With that statement, I feel better watching A&M struggle a little bit against Auburn. I feel better going, okay, A&M isn't unbeatable. You brought up very early in this podcast, you brought up the stats for A&M's defense. They're ranking what, 72 scoring
72.
defense? Yeah.
72.
So I feel better about that as a Texas fan. I think it's going to be interesting to see how A&M handles the pressure of being a top 10 team, because they haven't been there. They haven't been able to hold that for a hot minute. So is this team capable of maintaining top 10 status with the pressure of being in the top 10 in the SEC?
Yeah. We'll look at that new AP Top 25 in just a sec. Tennessee, Mississippi State. Mississippi State gave them all they could handle. I knew they would cover. They went to overtime. That was a brawl. Georgia Tech, Wake Forest. This was actually a really good game. Georgia Tech was down 17, got it to overtime, and Georgia Tech scored their touchdown and made their extra kick to go up 30-24, 30-23. And then Wake Forest scored their touchdown and then tried to go for 2 to just win it all in the first overtime. And it went all wrong. And
horribly wrong.
It went really bad. And they didn't get their 2 points. And it was a heartbreaker because Wake Forest was going to try to upset number 16 Georgia Tech. They did not. Georgia Tech goes up to rankings again. And then USC, after Illinois got blown out by Indiana, they beat USC. And then Notre Dame whooped up on Arkansas, and they needed that win, and that sent Arkansas firing their coach. Go ahead.
I was going to say this about Notre Dame. Look, I will call myself a fraud from last week. I thought that maybe Arkansas had a chance for an upset alert. They were playing for their coach. Maybe Notre Dame wasn't what we thought they were. Y'all, my bad. Because Arkansas is just as trashy.
Never believe in Arkansas. Have you learned
never buy into a pig. I'm just
never
saying.
believe in Arkansas.
And Notre Dame, a little bit of redemption there.
Good for them. Let's look at this poll now, the new AP Top 25 that came out on Monday. Some things that stood out to me quickly that I was really surprised by. OU going up to number 5 after losing their quarterback indefinitely to a hand injury. And yeah, then they go up and didn't even play, and they go up to number 5. It didn't matter. Texas plays them. Texas has their opportunity to take down a top 5 team. That's fine. A&M up to number 6, and their biggest win was at Notre Dame, respectable win. Other than that, nothing really to write home about. Oregon definitely deserves to fly up to the top with Ohio State. Miami's still up top. Georgia dropping to 12. So Georgia Tech won a dramatic game in overtime on the road, and they drop one. Anyway, what stood out to you in this top 25? Anything glaring to you?
Yeah, I think that's where like the level of competition comes in. Again, Ole Miss jumping up to 4. I think I'm not going to say it's not deserved, right? Like that's a good position for Ole Miss to be in. I still have a few question marks about OU and A&M being as high as they are. I'm not going to argue with them being ahead of Texas, just given the level of competition that they've played so far. But you're right. There are some kinks in the armor there, right? There's some opportunities.
Texas is still favored to beat both those teams.
Yeah, exactly. And
so the rankings will work themselves out.
That's exactly it. Like the way that I look at this right now, we're just one game before the halfway point of the season. Texas's destiny is still in their hands. Now, what I'm going to caution again, Texas has to focus week to week, make sure that they're handling business as they go, improving every game, doing well, but it's all laid out. You've got A&M on your schedule. You've got OU on your schedule. If this
Georgia
plays out exactly the way it
Vanderbilt.
is, you've got Georgia, you got Vanderbilt on your schedule. So again, I don't want to hear shit about a weak schedule for Texas. I just don't. You've got ranked teams closing out the season. And ultimately, if the rankings stay here and Texas defeats A&M and OU, Texas has an opportunity to play Ole Miss in the SEC championship, right? So Texas's future is still ahead of them. We still control our destiny here. Take it a game at a time, take it a week at a time, handle business, and I still like Texas's odds.
All right. I like it. Like we said, it's interesting. Some of these things make no sense, how they move people up who've beat other teams or whatever, but that's fine. It'll all work itself out. Vandy goes to beat Bama. Yeah, let's talk about these top the next games coming in. So let's go ahead and look ahead Saturday. Kentucky at number 12, Georgia. Georgia 3 touchdown favorites at home. They should be fired up after taking that L to Alabama. I only mentioned this game because it's 2 struggle bus teams. Clemson at North Carolina. Clemson is going to North Carolina as 2 touchdown favorites. How they haven't have they even scored 2 touchdowns in a game this year? I don't know. Okay, so Penn State, after taking their home loss to Oregon, they get to go cross country to vacation in LA because they're going to play 0-4 UCLA. You know that historic, prestigious Big Ten matchup of Penn State and UCLA. You know that just historic matchup.
Listen,
Penn State's
one for the
pretty much
ages.
they're just going for a West Coast vacay that weekend. I mean, might as well stay a couple extra days and hang out. This is the one I want to talk to you about. Mike D said, let's go Vandy beat Bama. What do you think, Megan? Number 16, 5-0, undefeated. The Fighting Pavias are going to now number 10, Alabama. They're 3-1. We know they took that ugly early loss to Florida State that had everyone hyped early about Florida State. Game is at 2:30. It's the afternoon game on ABC. Alabama are 10.5 point favorites, 10.5 point favorites. What do you think about this game? We know Bama went into Vanderbilt last year and got beat. What do you think? Can they do it again?
As much as I want to cue the Vandy pimp walk music that the SEC Shorts has made famous, look, Alabama, I still wouldn't want to be in Kalen DeBoer's shoes, being the guy that follows the man. But Alabama had a decisive win against Georgia. They proved a point there. They still can play some football, and they're in Tuscaloosa. Look, if you swap this and this was in Nashville, maybe there's a difference, but sorry, Vanderbilt. I'm taking Alabama in this one. I think Alabama has it. I think it's going to be a tough game in the first quarter, but I do think DeBoer learned his lesson. He's not going to get embarrassed again. I'm taking Alabama in this one, and I think they cover.
Yeah, I think this is where Vanderbilt comes back to life a little bit. They haven't faced a defense like Alabama. Alabama's defense is really finding their rhythm, and their offense is really finding the rhythm. So I'm also going to say Alabama. 10.5 seems like a lot.
I'm taking Bama. I'm taking they cover.
You're taking them to cover too. I'm going to pick Alabama to win, but not cover. I think it's more of a 7 to 10. 10.5 seems like a lot. All right. Boise State, after their big win at Arkansas, they get to go home and host. Notre Dame. They get to go home and host Boise State. Texas, we'll make our picks for Texas, Florida.
We'll make that pick at the end.
Yeah. Yep. Oklahoma without Mateer. This is what we have to talk about when we talk about Oklahoma. They're new, like the Aggie boards are trying to say, why are the Aggie boards even worried about it? But they're always worried about Texas. They're trying to say that at Chipotle, one player heard somebody say they saw Mateer at Chipotle, and that's why CB said Chipotle earlier. Why are we not filming from Chipotle? Because they said, we saw Mateer at Chipotle, and he's definitely playing against Texas. This was on the Aggie boards. This is the hard-hitting reporting that he's going to be ready to go by next week.
Look.
I hope he is. I want to beat OU, full squad, no excuses.
Let me take a deep breath before I say this. If you are relying on the man making burritos, it's probably not an inside scoop, right?
But it's Chipotle. And
it is Chipotle.
Chipotle is elite. I love Chipotle so much.
But I'm going to say this, Rocky, and you're not going to like it.
What?
Maybe this is my tinfoil hat. Maybe that's what I'm saying. I said this last week when it was announced that he was hurt. I feel like BV is going to play some mind games here. And I almost feel like Mateer is going to be back. I feel like Mateer is going to fight for this. And I do feel that they're going to keep Texas guessing on who's going to start. Are they playing this up to say, look, again, it's surgery. Who cares about the Band-Aid? Who cares about the small incision? Modern surgery means that you can make a teeny tiny incision and do crazy things internally.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the science behind it. Internally, he has to heal on his hand, right? But I'm not putting
His throwing hand.
His throwing hand. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. But I am not putting it past Oklahoma to play these mind games and say, oh, he's here. Oh, who knows? Surgery. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. It's going to be terrible for forever. And then miraculously Mateer shows up against Texas. And I'm telling you right
That's
now,
fine.
if he can be back, Mateer's going to fight his coaches tooth and nail to play in that game. I want him in that game. I want him 100%
Texas
in that
fans
game.
want him in that game. Texas fans are not
1,000%.
scared of him. Texas fans want him in that game so that there's no excuses. Just
Right. So
play
I
your
hope
best
we see
game.
Mateer. I hope he's healthy. I hope he heals. Part of me, again, tinfoil hat says he'll be fine. They're just playing with our minds. They're trying to get it where we don't know who to prepare for. Is it Mateer or is his backup? We got to split time prepping for both. But Mateer's really going to play. I don't know. I don't want to sound like a crazy person. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but
You
I do
sound
think there might be
conspiracy
some validity.
theory-ish.
I know I'm teetering on it. I'm teetering
I
on it.
know.
I'm not getting my news from Chipotle, but damn it, I'm not far from it.
I
All
get
right.
my news from Chipotle. The point of that story was that they have Kent State at 1-3. Kent State. So Michael Hawkins gets to have a little scrimmage against Kent State on Saturday, holding until the following week when they get Texas. I only mentioned this next game because it's your Michigan State Sparties going to Nebraska. Both teams are 3-1. We know Michigan State suffered the terrible injuries the other night at that late game against USC. And then USC went on to lose on the road. Nebraska is 3-1 also, but Nebraska's 11.5-point favorites. Do you feel that's fair? Can Michigan State hang in that game?
I do. Look, Michigan State's listed as 3-1, but the competition hasn't been phenomenal. And I'm gonna keep saying this. Sorry, Texas fans, but I do think Matt Rule is a good fit at Nebraska. And I think this is when he figures things out. And I just don't think Michigan State's going to be up for the task. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I think it's fair. I think Nebraska takes that game.
All right. I think Mike D says he agrees with your theory, your foil paper on the head theory.
Thank you.
So as we get later and later in the season, it is going to be rarer and rarer, more and more rare to have undefeated matchups. We have one this weekend still. Last week we had like 3 or 4. We still have one this weekend. It is a Big 12 matchup of number 11, 4-0 Texas Tech, 4-0 Houston. So they have one similar opponent already. They both have played Oregon State. Oregon State, Tech beat up on them 45-14 at home. Houston went into Oregon State and beat them 27-24. So Tech is 10.5-point favorites at Houston. Do you think this is when Texas Tech comes back to earth a little bit and Houston handles business, or do you see Tech rolling?
Look, I spent a weird amount of time today kind of diving into Houston. I went down a Twitter rabbit hole.
What? Tell me.
Somebody complaining, a Houstonite complaining about in 1956, they showed a picture of University of Houston football game was absolutely packed. Attendance was like 60,000. And again, this is in 1956. So they were asking the question, what happened to Houston and why can't they get support like this? So I went down a bit of a University of Houston rabbit hole. And let's not forget, in 1956, Houston did not have professional sports teams. They didn't have the Oilers. They didn't have the Texans, obviously. They didn't have the
Houston Rockets and the Astros. Were the Astros there? I don't know.
No, I mean, it was 45s prior. So again,
they were the premier team, the pro team.
They were the team. They were the thing to go do. So since 1956, Houston has been, I'm going to have to remember my math here. They're right at about a 56% win program. It's not great, Bob. That's all I'm saying. So look, University of Houston, maybe they're getting better. They've had some flashes when Tom Herman was there.
They're winning
they've
this
had
year.
Some flashes. Right. And they've had some flashes, but historically what happens is get a good coach that builds them back up, that's there for 2, 3, maybe 4 years, and then they get snatched by a bigger program. Maybe
Tom
Houston's
Herman.
enjoying some success right now. All of this to say Texas Tech handles Houston. I don't see Houston popping up here. I still think while they are much improved, while they gave Texas fits a few years ago, I still think Texas Tech, as much as I hate to say this, is a legitimate contender this year for a Big 12 championship. And I think we're going to see Texas Tech in the playoffs. So yeah, I think Texas Tech handles Houston.
Yeah, I could see them going in there and winning by at least 10 and a half is the spread. All right, Saturday night, the actual good games, well, outside of Texas and Florida, the actually really competitive big name games are and Saturday night. Minnesota 3-1 goes to Ohio State. Ohio State is 24, almost 24-point favorites, so that's whatever. But this is actually an interesting. Number 3 Miami is 4-0, and they go to Florida State, who is just coming off that loss to Virginia and being trampled by the field rushers. This is a Saturday night game. Miami is 4.5-point favorites at Florida State. Miami is physical, have a strong defense, a good offensive line. Florida State is up and down. Yes, they beat Alabama, but then they lost Virginia. How do you think this game turns out? If it's at Florida State at night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Rocky, I have to say this is one of those that makes my stomach turn a little bit. Like, I don't know which way to go on this. Looking at Florida State last year, holy crap, what a garbage ass team. The turnaround that Florida State has had this season has been phenomenal. Given that it's in Tallahassee, given that it's an in-state rivalry, given that all of these things, I'm still taking Miami, but I'm taking Miami by a little. And the reason being, I think Miami has that understanding. I think they're just a more complete team right now. They understand how to win. I think that Carson Beck, while he is not Cam Ward, I do think he's got the experience. He's got the level head. He knows how to go into a rival environment like this. He knows how to play against them. So I'm taking Miami. Woo, that 4.5 spread. That's tough. But I'm going to take Miami, and I'm going to say they win by 7. I think it's a close game. I think Florida State gives them a run for their money, but Miami takes this and beats the spread.
Mike D, my son says, do you will win. Mike D, your son is right. Miami's going to win big. I think I think Virginia beats Florida State twice. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
I think they're still under the crowd on the floor of the stadium picking themselves up. I think Miami is going to be too much for Florida State, and they're going to come back to earth a little bit more even than they did last week. So I have Miami winning and covering that game. Mississippi State at Texas A&M. Mississippi State was 4-0 going into that overtime loss to Tennessee last week at home. They are an improved team everywhere on the field.
Texas fans beware. As much as we thought Mississippi State might be just a gimme game this season, nope, not in Starkville. Not in Starkville.
With the cowbells going crazy the whole game, they're taking those cowbells to Cal Patty Town, number 6 A&M. It's on the SEC network, also a night game. Okay, this is crazy. Mississippi State, we know they already beat ranked Arizona State, and then a couple of crappy wins, and then they lost to in overtime to number 15 Tennessee. A&M has beaten UTSA, Utah State. They went to Notre Dame and beat at the time number 8 Notre Dame, which was good, and then the awful Auburn team that we had to watch last week. Aggies are 14.5-point favorites. I'm going to go first and say the Aggies will survive at home, but they are not winning by 2 touchdowns.
I agree with you, Rocky. I don't think A&M is winning by 2 touchdowns. I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here and say upset alert.
Upset alert or upset?
Upset alert.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and commit to it, y'all.
Okay.
As much as I've been on the A&M bandwagon and I'm an Elko truther, I think Mississippi State comes in and plays real tough, and I think maybe they upset Texas A&M here. I think A&M survived Alabama. I think Mississippi State learns from that. And Rocky, really the tilting point for me here is that A&M has painted their logo and their field black. They're doing their blackout game here. And historically, that doesn't go well for them.
Anytime they try to do blackout, they lose.
Look, or they fail in some way. When they did the glow in the dark uniforms for
the day game.
for the noon game, it just doesn't go well for A&M. So look, if for nothing else alone, I'm going on those blackout vibes that just don't work well for A&M. I'm going to take Mississippi State here, y'all. Again, maybe
Okay.
I'm crazy. Maybe A&M proves me completely wrong, and A&M deserves to be at that number 6 spot. God bless them if they do. But I think Mississippi State screws up a few brackets here and is the roach that drops in your morning oatmeal, right? As
Well,
DKR would say. So
all right. Well, Mississippi State has been putting up real points against real competition. Last week, 34 points against Tennessee. Texas A&M's offense is coming to earth a little bit. We'll see if they were lighting it up early. Let's see if they can They lit it up at Notre Dame. Let's see if they can light it up here at home. But 14.5 seems like way too much to me for a really improved Mississippi State team that can score with anyone. So I'm going to say that's too much. I don't know if I'm ready to say upset city, but I will say Mississippi State is not losing by 2 touchdowns.
That's fair.
All right.
That's fair.
All right.
All right,
So
Texie.
one last thing.
Texie,
Oh, go ahead.
Rocky and Texas. That's what I just put together. I just called you Texie, and I'm here for it. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say one last thing. We'll wrap up with just wrapping up with our NFL teams. My team stinks the worst of all teams ever. The Texans finally got a win, but it was, of course, by destroying my team. And then the Cowboys, shame. Like when I got on the plane Sunday night, because we did layover in New York, we were taking off. I was watching the first 10 minutes of the game, 5-10 minutes of the game on my phone, and Green Bay went down the field and scored. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be a long game. I turned it off. And when we landed, we're in overtime. Like, what? It was 3.5, 4-hour flight. And again, the game's still on. I was like, well, let's see how bad they lost. And I'm sitting here watching them tie the game 40-40. But you wanted to share this video, Megan.
Look, let me say this.
What is this video?
I'm happy my Texans won. And this is not a slight on you, Rocky. I know you are a Tennessee fan, but
we were horrible.
Do the Texans listen, Longhorn fans, if you want to feel better about the O-line, and if you want to have no qualms about the O-line, let's just take a gander at this. Rocky, do you mind pulling it up?
Yeah, I got it right here for you.
The Texans, this is an NFL professional team. This is a professional O-line going up against what might be the worst team in the NFL right now. We
are the worst team, and we will get the number 1 pick again.
No.
So the play started, and the 2 Houston Texans players turn and block each other.
First of all, we start off this play with 2 Texans O-linemen blocking each other.
Like turning and hugging each other.
As the play develops and CJ Stroud is getting absolutely demolished, there are at least 4 up to 6 people blocking a singular Tennessee Titan as CJ Stroud is already getting his butt whooped. So Texas fans, let me just put it out there. There are O-lines in the NFL that are worse. So look, I'm just going to say that. Rocky, I'm sorry it had to be your Titans, but that was really bad O-line play. So that's my crying corner for the week. I'm sad about the Texans O-line. I'm happy we came out with the win. Best of luck to your Titans throughout the rest of the season.
I sent you this little video, and somebody puts together NFL players and then a movie clip that fits them, and they put Cam Ward, Tennessee Titans quarterback, and then they put the clip on it of Will Smith's son. What's his name? Jaden Smith.
Jaden Smith, yeah.
Jaden Smith, when he was the little karate kid. I hate this place and I want to go home.
I hate this place and I want to go home. Yeah, that's accurate.
Go home.
That's accurate.
He said that they're ass, pretty much. He said we're playing like ass. And yes, sir, your team is. Cam Ward, I wish he had pieces. I wish he had a real team. He tries so hard and he's so talented.
You guys get the gold star. You tried.
You know, E for effort. We don't get any W's. Give us some E's. All right, let's wrap it up, Megan.
All right. So, Rocky, we've been alluding to this the whole time. I'm going to let you go first with your pick. We're going to
Oh, the
take,
Texas pick. Yes.
yeah, we got to make, you're going to leave the people hanging? You're killing me, Smalls.
No,
Yes.
my pick totally changed after seeing the injury report. I was feeling,
Okay.
like I
All
said
right.
earlier, I was feeling confident with something like a 24-13 kind of win, 24-10, something like that. After seeing this injury report, I have a hard time picking Texas to win this game now because everything we said about the rain, the running game, blah, 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 all the things, being able to convert third downs against that defense. Man, I don't want to overreact and now call this a loss for Texas, but I have a hard time picking a win for Texas after seeing this injury report. The top two running backs.
All right. You call it. Say it with your chest. What you got?
I don't know how Texas wins this game now. If without Baxter and I told you, when I texted you and I saw that, I said, without Baxter and Wisner, we're toast. That's what I texted you.
You did.
I mean, I'm going to keep it real. I don't see how we win this game without our best two running backs.
So you think it's a Florida upset?
It's going to be like a 6-3 Florida.
All right. You think this is a special teams shootout here? No touchdown scored. It's a special teams shootout.
Not to overreact, but
the rain. All right. Look,
it's okay. It's either going to be 17.
You gotta pick one.
I know. All right, 6-3 Florida.
Okay. Shit. All right.
I mean, no running backs. You're going to go into Florida with young. They're talented. They're amazing. They've shined. They've stepped up in the last few weeks. There is a difference in their level of experience in this environment. And I'm just going to say, I love the young guys. There's a difference in the level of experience. And gosh, I just seeing Baxter, and Wisner on that list. I can't do it.
Okay. All right. So you have your feelings, and I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm way wrong.
I'm gonna say this. Ooh, all right. I'm taking Texas in this game, 24-10. I think it is
That's
close.
Where I was before this list.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it. Look, I think that it is close for Texas in the first half. I think this is an ugly, sloppy, gross game in the first half. But I do think Texas gets it together. I think they get Florida's fan base to turn on Napier instead of Texas. And I think that the Texas defense holds up and throws through and gets into DJ Lagway's head. I don't think Lagway figures shit out against Texas. So I'm taking it 24-10 Texas in the end. It ends up being a decisive win, but it doesn't feel decisive until the second half.
Well, like we saw earlier with Florida, they are in it in the third and fourth quarters of these games. You have to stick to the plan, keep grinding the ball, and pull away at the end. Let's look at some other predictions. David Wheeler has 24-13 Texas. I could see that if we had two good running backs ready to go. CB 28-7 Tejas. Wow. Oh. I wish. I just have a hard time in this weather with these missing the top two running backs.
All right. Mike D, you got 24-17 Texas. Look, I like it. I like the confidence here. Again, I think Texas carries through. I think Arch is figuring things out, and he's just going to get better as he goes. I think that Sam Houston State game was an improvement and a boost in confidence for him. I think he holds on to that confidence. I think he figures it out. Miracle Martinez, you have Ezzy. Hey, girl, nice to have you here. 21-14. I like it. Look, I think we're given a lot of credit here to Lagway and to Manning. I think these are two quarterbacks that are going to be playing for pride here. But look, my call is based on the Texas defense. I think they stand up. I'm giving Florida more credit than I want to, but it's because they're at home, because it's going to be a spicy game, because they're going to be feeling they have something to prove. That's why I'm spotting Florida 10 against this Texas defense. Whew. But I think it's going to be a good one, y'all. So I'll be there. It'll be ridiculous. I'm probably going to be soaked in messy. Look, let me say this though. If you guys want to come out, whoever is going to be in Florida, I'm going to give a shout out to Surly Horns. They are throwing a great tailgate. If you guys want to pop by, I have decided not to throw my own tailgate, but I will be at Surly Horns. I will have the dogs there. So if y'all want to pop by and come say hi, I'd love to see you. We'd love to get rowdy in the swamp and show them what's up. Again, y'all, we appreciate you being here. Again, please like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. If you're listening on a podcast, again, click that follow, click the subscribe. We are Fire the Cannon podcast on any of your podcast platforms, of course, on Twitter and Instagram. We are Fire the Cannon and the number 1. And on YouTube, y'all, that like and subscribe helps us a lot. Fire the Cannon podcast. Please like us. Tell us what's up. Give us your comments. We appreciate everybody being here. As always, y'all, I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon.
Different
Hook 'em,
outro.
y'all.
Ready?